They are the insiders, Chris Johnston, Pierre LeBrun, and Darren Dreger. This is going to be a big off season. A number of the league's top players are looking for big paydays, and teams may soon find out how much they're going to be able to spend, Dregs.
Well, that's the expectation, and there's no doubt that every club in the National Hockey League, every player agent associated with their clients is eager to find out what the cap projection for the 25-26 season is going to be. Well, the expectation is the National Hockey League will unveil that secret as early as the upcoming Four Nations face-off, and it may go beyond that. So not just a projection for 25-26, but perhaps a year or two after that as well. Now, there's been much speculation around what the cap space hit might look like for next year, and I'm told that it is very unlikely it'll climb above $96 million. So it definitely gives the general managers a bit of a head start here in the player agents with coveted guys like Marner, maybe Mikko Rantanen, John Tavares, perhaps a head start as well in their heavy lifting negotiations ahead.
While we wait for word on that, we're just over 5 weeks to the NHL trade deadline, and the Canucks may have found a suitor for Elias Pettersson, Pierre?
Yeah, I'd say it's a little early to say that, but certainly a team to talk about would be the Columbus Blue Jackets, and it's not surprising because they've got massive salary cap space, and so as the Canucks make their rounds and talk to different teams on both JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, the conversation with the Jackets is on Pettersson. We'll see whether these preliminary discussions, some of them very recent, can go next level. But I think for Columbus, it's the same question all the other teams that have talked to Vancouver have, including a team like Buffalo. Who is Elias Pettersson right now? The Pettersson of old warranted that massive extension, but the one we've seen over the past year has a lot of teams wondering how much they want to give up. What I'm sensing around the market, whether it's Miller or Pettersson, is teams are waiting to see if the Canucks are willing to bring their asking price down on either player before they engage more fully on either player.
Elsewhere, it's crazy to think that after 2 Stanley Cups and 2 Olympic gold medals, Drew Doughty still has to audition to play for Team Canada. But given his injury situation, how closely is the Canadian brass now watching him, CJ?
Oh, they're watching his every move at this point, and I wouldn't call it an audition, Gino. A little bit more of just gauging where he's at. He just made his NHL season debut on Wednesday after missing the first couple months of the season with a fractured ankle. And it's quite fortuitous timing that the Kings are in Florida right now. That gave Drew Doughty a chance to sit down and have a chat with John Cooper, the Lightning head coach, and obviously Team Canada's head coach, ahead of a decision to who to replace Alex Pietrangelo. And so obviously with Doughty's pedigree, he'd be an excellent fit. But I think Team Canada has to get a sense of where he's at physically before they can determine if he's the guy or if they look elsewhere.
Well, and how about throwing Drew Doughty right into the fire on Wednesday night? I mean, he played almost 24 minutes, so his health is there. He felt good before, felt good after, and feels good on this day as well. So there's no bigger picture concerns in terms of load management. Jokingly, one of the members of the Los Angeles Kings management group said load management. He only played 8.5 minutes in the first period on Wednesday. That's load management for Drew Doughty. But his game came at the expense of young defenseman Brandt Clarke. And yeah, there was a little bit of an undercurrent of speculation. Could he be in play? Well, he's not in play. He's a young D-man who has just experienced how tough it is to stay in the NHL. So this is nothing but a recharge for Brandt Clarke.
Speaking of D-men, the Habs' Kaiden Guhle is out indefinitely following surgery to repair a nasty cut on his quadricep. How does this affect the Habs between now and the deadline, Pierre?
It really doesn't. The bigger picture still trumps all for the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, it's a brutal injury. Will hurt their chances probably of trying to make the playoffs. But the reality is they're going to stay with their current plan, which is they're not going to go out and try and replace Guhle with a rental defenseman and pay the rental prices that you would, to salvage the season that way. The Habs have had discussions with teams. The kind of trade that they would make, and that was even before this injury, would be the kind of trade they would do in June or July, i.e., a bigger impact deal that can help this team beyond this season. That's really their focus. Having said that, their version of being buyers would be staying in the race between now and March 7th and keeping a lot of their pending UFAs, as Darren Dreger once coined it, their own rentals. That would be their version of buying.
Guys, it's not unheard of for a team to waive a player when they no longer see a fit there, but it's a totally different story when the player agrees to have his contract terminated and he walks away from millions of dollars. But that's the deal with Brandon Saad, CJ.
Yes, and it's a unique situation. As of Friday afternoon, he'll be free to sign with any NHL team. Usually you don't see free agency end of January. And because of the unique circumstances here, we're expecting at least a handful of contending teams to kick the tires on Saad. They love the fact they don't have to give up anything to get him beyond the cap space it takes to sign him. And one of those teams I expect to make a real push here would be the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, Toronto's in the market for a center, but interested in seeing if maybe Saad sees a fit for them as a potential wing option. But he's going to have options, and what the cost is will be the determining factor, I think, for some of these teams, because obviously Saad did walk away from that money. He's not going to come cheap necessarily.
They are the insiders, Chris Johnston, Pierre LeBrun, and Darren Dreger.